It was really fascinating experience because I could feel myself getting more and more pissed off.
I'm Wesley Morris, and this is Cannonball Today. I got the magic stick. That's right. Obsession.
I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in the entire world.
It is the sleeper movie of the year. It's been out for like a month now, and the phenomenon of it is as much a thing as the movie itself. This thing cost almost nothing to make, and so far it's made more than $200 million around the world. Most of it coming from North American money. The premise is pretty straightforward, but also pretty American, which is part of the point.
Have you ever actually flirted with Nikki?
I'm gonna go get some shots.
I'll come with you if she means this much to you. And I know she does. To say, Nikki, I think we should grab a drink sometime.
A guy makes a wish on a toy magic stick for a girl he's got a crush on at his job, and the wish is for her to love him more than she loves anybody else. And you know what? She does. Real hard.
A love only the branch of a willow tree could conjure.
Like, she won't let him out of her sight or near another person. And every time he tries to leave the house because suddenly she's there all the time, she weeps or screams or pees herself. I mean, I'm laughing, but I'm not laughing. That is the horror of this film. A woman is cursed to be enslaved to a boy who just couldn't bring himself to tell her that he's caught feelings for her. The movie, I mean, it's more interesting than it is satisfying as filmmaking or storytelling, but in its way, it's also a good time.
I was calling to see if there's a way I can cancel a wish.
I'm sorry, we don't really do that.
So she's just stuck like this forever?
Well, yeah, I mean, as long as you live.
As long as I live?
And, you know, the writer and director is a guy named Curry Barker. He started out on YouTube, and he's got a background in sketch comedy. And I just read somewhere that he got an 8-figure offer for his next movie. Sight unseen, there's no script, there's no nothing. He didn't have to pitch it because he just got it like that right now. And he's only 26. I would actually put the average age of my seatmates, a mostly sold out show on a Wednesday afternoon, even younger than Curry Barker. I'd say at about the 11th grade. I actually felt like I was chaperoning a school trip. And the screaming and the mass cringing, it just kind of made the movie mean more as an experience. And afterward, I was deeply touched by the sight of my fellow moviegoers clogging the bathroom entrance, because you know they do that. But they were talking about what a blast some of them had just had and who the villain is in this thing and how messed up it is what happens to this woman. Her name is Nikki, by the way.
I think Nikki is going through something. Like what? Is she okay? No.
And it's not just that people are connecting to obsession. It sounded to me like they were arguing over the relationships and who's good and bad. I loved that. But I'm also wondering whether this thing is worth an argument. My guest today is Angelica Jade Bastien, a pop culture critic for New York Magazine who writes a lot about movies, and she really understands horror as a genre and is the kind of critic who just comes right out and says what's on her mind. She has a lot of feelings about Obsession's depiction of relationships, and I really just wanted to talk through those feelings with her, so here we go. And if it's not obvious already, we are going to talk about every nook and cranny of this movie. Sorry. Angelica Jade Bastien. Welcome to Cannonball.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be on the show.
Well, I'm really thrilled to have you here. I have been reading your criticism for a long time, and I'm now proud and thrilled to be able to talk about this movie with you. I'm curious about, what your movie-going experience was like and what you experienced leaving this movie.
Well, I saw it at the wonderful Music Box here in Chicago.
Oh, whoa.
Amazing theater, love my favorite rep theater here. And my boyfriend and I saw Obsession opening weekend there. And it wasn't super packed. It's been interesting to see how the film is doing even better in its third week. But the audience was definitely game, definitely younger than me and my boyfriend, who were both in our late 30s. And it was really fascinating experience because I could feel myself getting more and more pissed off. And my boyfriend had a completely different read of the movie and he enjoyed it. I admittedly, I feel like as I've gotten older, I thought misogyny pissed me off. I thought that seeing women's bodies used as objects was already like annoying and galling to me. But there's something about entering an era as a woman in which you're hyper aware that people do not value you. And I've just noticed I'm like far more sensitive to misogyny, which I think everybody should be.
Right, sure.
And so watching the movie, it is very aware of the conversations we're having around young people and younger generations and how they function in relationships and how certain not great dynamics in dating have been supercharged and heightened by online dating and just how we relate to each other in the modern time. And so there's that track with regards to like incels and male entitlement. But I found it a very incurious movie. And for me, the tell is the women, both the character Nikki and the character Sarah, and how they're treated and the way their bodies are used, shot, and negotiated within the narrative itself.
So let's talk about Nikki and Sarah and just how they are functioning in the sort of formal universe of this movie. You know, when the movie starts, we are watching the main character. His name is Baron. Everybody calls him Bear. And he has a crush on his coworker, Nikki, his old high school classmate, and makes this wish. The wish is, I wish Nikki loved me more than anybody in the whole fucking world is the wish. The wish comes true. And there's Sarah, who is his other high school classmate. They all work together at this music shop store that Sarah's father owns. And Sarah has a crush on Bear. And so what you've got is one woman, Sarah, who has a crush on this guy, and another woman who has been sort of essentially enslaved to him.
Yeah, it's very interesting watching the movie because something kept rattling in the back of my head that I think only I clarified for myself recently in writing notes and really thinking through the movie again. As someone who's actually diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, I think sometimes this movie feels like a caricature of the BPD crazy girlfriend that every man is apparently so afraid of. And the version of love that Bear desires is similar to the version of love I think a lot of men, not just young men, but men in general, have been sold, which is their version of love is to have a woman who is easily manipulated, always is open to what they need and their desires, but has little desires of her own. She's less a sentient being than a vehicle for care.
Yes.
And there's a few moments that I think are so telling, thinking about who the movie is most curious about and where characters fall into complete caricature.
Right. Talk to me about one of those. Like, what's one?
One for me that really jumps out is the sequence involving Sarah and her death. So Bear is in the car with Sarah. He has now sneaked out of his home, and him and Sarah are having a conversation about Nikki. And, Sarah says, I think you deserve someone more chill. And he's like you. And soon after that, you can see
through the window of the car, the driver's side window, somebody's coming.
somebody's coming. And which is very obvious. The filmmaking language is similar to the kind of scene you would expect before like a car is crashing.
Angelica, hold up though. I mean, I got to give it to Curry Barker here because even though I understand the film language, it's really just about how fast you talk, right? And she came out of nowhere as far as I'm concerned. I'm saying you could see through the driver's side window, but you can't really see through the driver's side window. Like, Nikki's just there. And like, it's not just that she's there. She has broken the window with a brick, positioned the brick on the steering wheel, has grabbed Sarah's head and is banging the head into the brick she's holding on the steering wheel. That's the only time I jumped one time in this movie, and it was a legit jump scare. Anyway, go on.
Poor Sarah, crushing on the wrong man. Been there.
We all been there, lady.
And so soon after, you see a brief but notable shot of Sarah's body, obviously her bludgeoned, caved-in face, and she's completely naked, and her legs are spread. You can tell,
it's a very porny shot. It's a
very porny shot. And it's just so jarring, especially as things are continuing to escalate to their conclusion. And it's a shot that doesn't need to be in the movie. Like, what is it actually adding to this story?
What is it actually adding, Angelica?
Besides,
I mean, like, what?
To be provocative. A lot of times during this movie, I could just feel the energy of, wow, isn't that crazy? Man, that's crazy. That's wild. The movie doesn't go deeper than that. It's trying to provoke you.
That's the vibe.
For me, it is a stunning example of how useful women's bodies are as an object, but women's selves aren't as subjects. It is just a tell. To me, it's a tell about where the movie's sympathies and interests actually lie. And there's a lot of interesting things happening leading up to this moment where Sarah is texting Bear at night and he has to slip out of bed and he has an interesting exchange with real Nikki.
Oh, this is a like crucial moment to me.
Basically, before the Sarah car scene, Bear is slipping out of bed, trying not to wake Nikki up. And Nikki's body is asleep, but the real Nikki is able to speak.
Yeah, we should just say, I'm just going to say that it's clear to us that whatever this wish is has kind of encased Nikki within it. And occasionally, on 2 occasions before this moment that we're about to talk about, Nikki has snapped out of the encasement. And she doesn't know what's going on. It's like she's suddenly like in a room that she doesn't understand why she's in. And then the wish sort of takes back over. And so now here we are, Bear's about to sneak off and like talk to Sarah about this news Sarah needs him to know. And Nikki is still in bed asleep, but she wakes up and says, "Hey, Bear.
Kill me, please."
Yes.
She's begging to die. And their exchange is really interesting because she points something out after he says, "What would be so bad? What's so bad about being with me?" Your response to a woman, okay, Bear. But what she says after, I think, is really telling. "I've never been with you, Bear."
Right.
The movie is obviously aware that what Bear is doing is horrifying. And what Nikki is experiencing is one of the most stark examples of a woman's autonomy being stolen from her. It's interesting because I interpreted it as Nikki herself is aware of what's going on in there.
Yes, yeah.
But she can't do anything. And she continues to beg for him to kill her while he slinks into the shadows. And then you have the next scene with Sarah. And so the movie wants to do 2 things. It wants to acknowledge the horror Nikki is in without developing her interiority, but it also wants to frame Bear as really put upon by this situation. So it's trying to create a sympathy for him. That's why I think it gets stuck in the morass of crazy girlfriend territory rather than where the real horror is.
But I mean, I think I mean, there's something fascinating to me about the encasement situation. You know, the fact that this woman is trapped inside this fantasy. And what I thought about as you're laying this out is the sunken place. Right?
Oh, this movie is so aware of Get Out. I mean,
Pretty explicitly.
quite explicitly, I would say. But this is, in my opinion, a failure as a horror movie because I don't even think it creates good tension or scares in that regard.
Yeah, I think that I think there's a really fascinating scene that kind of gets at the both the tension and lack of tension in this movie, and it makes a really surprising choice. One of where Baron's, for our purposes, best friend, this guy named Ian,
yes,
is having this party. Everybody's coming over to Ian's house to hang out one night. And Nikki, you know, it's not like the interesting thing to me is like Nikki doesn't have the Wish doesn't have a setting for being in public with other people. Nikki is her full self, the way she is with Baron at this party. But what's interesting is that at some point during this scene, she stands up and she's extremely uncomfortable. She makes everyone else uncomfortable because she's so intense. And she stands up and she reads, she does what seems like a recital of something. She claims it's a story she's working on, but it's very explicit.
I would call it Hansel and Gretel fuck fiction.
Yes, it's an incest story between Hansel and Gretel. Right.
Yeah, and there's like a part where she says, like, as, you know, the Gretel character, that even if they don't like have actual sex, that she will take some of his flesh, roll it up, and put it inside of her. He's going to be inside of her somehow. And of course, everyone around her at this party is like, okay, no, what is going on? What is this? She's already, you know, laughing in a way that feels like very extra. And everybody is so uncomfortable looking at her, looking at Bear, and trying to figure out like, what is this? This is like completely changed the vibes of the party, basically. The vibes become very rancid.
This is the thing. I mean, I find this scene fascinating for a number of reasons. One, you know, ordinarily in a movie like this, no one else would know what's happening here. It would be Baron telling everybody else what's happening and no one else witnessing what's happening, right?
Exactly.
So everybody is witnessing this thing, and it now is repositioning Bear's ethics, right? Because now there are people who are like, dude, something needs to be done for this person. She's suffering. She's clearly not well.
Which Ian, at one point in the movie, does,
of all the people,
I know, does voice like, hey, it seems like you're kind of taking advantage of her. Like she's not acting like herself. Something is obviously up. What's interesting to me is that the movie doesn't continue that thread of like people being worried about her, to the point where I'm like, y'all ain't really friends. And apparently she has no one around her that she talks to on a regular basis that would be able to clock like,
Nikki's missing.
You know, who is this person? Who is this person? We need to hospitalize her because she's having some sort of psychotic break because she's not acting like herself on a very base level. And I find it interesting the movie doesn't want to continue that thread. But again, that would call the movie to have curiosity about Nikki and who else she's connected to. As far as we know with this movie, these people only really know each other. And then they don't really seem to have lives and relationships outside of this like tight friend group who, you know, they're so close and do trivia together. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is the reason to talk about this movie to me, is that this is a movie that doesn't quite understand relationships beyond a certain developmental point, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the developmental point is graduation. I think there's an imagination barrier about what any kind of committed adult love is this really is speaking to a person who's between the ages of 15 and 22. And what it's offering them is a worst case relationship scenario. I mean, you've seen the data. We're doing a lot less of stuff we used to do, like
sex,
fuck and marry.
Fuck, marry, have friends, leave your house, talk to people. I honestly, I'm really worried about younger generations. Admittedly, I do bristle at how we discuss generational divides. I think they can be useful on like a broad level to talk about like, changes we're seeing. But I think people...
You mean sort of like taxonomizing us according to like Gen Alpha, Gen Z.
Yeah, exactly.
Gen X, right.
Millennials,
okay. Right, sure.
I find it interesting how essentialist the conversations become about generations, as if we're like locked into the same taste, the same experiences. We have overlaps amongst, within a generation, but we're still all human beings existing in the same world and spaces. And while I do think there are some interesting differences that we can see between how generations relate to each other, I think part of what's influencing some of these differences is I didn't grow up, you didn't grow up having to worry about social media and your own branding and persona as reflected online.
Yes.
I am so thankful I got to be the weirdest, metalhead goth before social media. I was a wild one in that regard. And there's no visual evidence. But I think, the one thing I will say that I do witness in younger generations, including, I'm friends with people who classify as Gen Z, is sometimes this value towards being an introvert who's bedrotting and not connecting with other human beings. This movie doesn't seem to want to or have the capability and curiosity to get more into how a person like Bear develops, like why a bear exists, why he looks at women that way. And so I think because that character psychology is just not there, it fails at its aims. And just, just to put it bluntly, it just pissed me the fuck off. I was just like, y'all, like, I am... Right now, you can't see it on camera, but I am wearing a t-shirt for one of my favorite horror movies, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, directed by the great Ernest Dickerson, who was a cinematographer for Spike Lee for a long time on films like Malcolm X. And to me, that exemplifies, one strain of horror I really love. And this is a movie that has like gnarly, gross effects. It has Billy Zane playing an insane demon hunting down a relic.
How do I know you ain't gonna kill me?
You have my word. I mean, frankly, we've been counting on you, haven't we?
But there's such a strong sense of who these characters are, their psychology, what they desire. I don't really know about these people in Obsession.
But I think that the sort of social horror of this, it kind of needs the generic traits that we're getting from all these characters. They need to be more types in order for us to have this conversation. Because we're not talking about people, right?
No.
Like what we're talking about is behaviors that correspond to our understanding of how they function in the real world.
Exactly.
And the problem with the movie in some ways, and this is kind of where I'd like to go next, is that this is not really a movie about people, right? This is a movie by a person who has seen people not in real life, but in the movies.
Exactly.
All of its reference are, adult thrillers. I mean, Mulholland Drive is a thing I thought about while I watched this. We talked about Get Out. I think that, there's a lot of, J-horror, Japanese horror movies that, are visually referenced. There's a moment where she like kind of skitters across the bedroom with a flower vase in front of her face. It's much more interested in movie history vibes. This is a movie to me that could be put in a number of different classes of subgenre of movie making. And I think one of the things that's interesting to me is it's not completely at home in any of these on any of these shelves. So let's just start with one. There's three that I'm going to bring to you, and then whatever comes up for you, we can talk about.
Sounds good.
I'm going to start with The Blank from Hell. The blank from hell genre, I'm going to say its high watermark is Fatal Attraction. Essentially, The Blank from Hell is someone finds themselves in some kind of relationship with an extreme person, like a person who's just gone so far off the deep end because they're in love, because they're horny, because they're ambitious, or, the blanket catch-all for a blank from hell is that they're just crazy somehow. They're being driven by some inner insanity. We're talking about Fatal Attraction, of course. I mentioned that. The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Misery, Basic Instinct,
White female.
Single white female. So let's talk about the things that, make this a blank from hell movie, right? I mean, or the things that the blank from hells that it's borrowing from. Bear's got a cat and obsession. The cat dies.
Very early on.
How does this cat die, Angelica? Does this death make any sense to you?
No, apparently the cat is able to open pill bottles.
Its own food and pill bottles.
And I was just like, okay. And then, Nikki has made Bear lunch. He's at work. He's eating the sandwich. And it dawns on him he's eating some sauteed version of his cat. And he ate several bites. He ate like half that sandwich.
Yeah, she made him cate. And it was, he was disgusted by it. But we should say this is like the movie is basically taking two Michael Douglas movies, two Michael Douglas blank from hell movies. Fatal Attraction, Glenn Close, iconically boils the bunny, or we don't see her actually do anything, but the brilliance of that sequence in Fatal Attraction is the rabbit's missing. The daughter finds that the rabbit is not in its pen, and Ann Archer, the wife in the film, goes and lifts the boiling pot that she slowly walks toward in the kitchen. You can see it off in the distance of the long shot. She picks up the pot. Oh my God! The bunny's been boiled. And the other, the cate, is, as far as I'm concerned, from Michael Douglas in Kathleen Turner and War of the Roses.
Nobody who makes pate this good can be all bad.
That depends on what the pate is made of.
Where the dog is missing and maybe it's dinner now.
Woof.
And in that movie, that's a marriage from hell movie, right? Where
very much so.
This relationship that you recognize is now sort of something you fear.
Exactly. It is fascinating to use the cat in that way because I think it sort of harkens to the fact that the movie is more interested in provocation and comedy than actual horror and psychology, even though there's so much rich terrain to be tilled in this movie that just doesn't get that happening.
Related, in my notebook, the first time I watched it, I did write, is she the cat? Like, has the spirit of this cat, I mean, there's so much, it's not quite animism. I mean, some of her behavior is
animalistic.
Animalistic, right.
I think that speaks to how horror films look at women more so than maybe that being
any kind of animism.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
I think
reanimation.
Horror will often argue, and maybe this is actually just true of culture at large, that argues like women are closer to nature, which means they're closer to some primalness, which means they're closer to being insane. And I think there's some strains of that in this movie, although the movie doesn't seem fully aware of what it trips into. But that's true of a lot of things in this movie.
All right, next category that Obsession, is aware of, but, again, doesn't quite fulfill, right? Like but there's enough going on here that you're forced to think about it. And it's the boy makes wish, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole genre of movies in which a boy, wishes for something and the wish comes true. I'm thinking about Weird Science.
Ugh.
It's a little bit more than a wish, but it's essentially a wish.
Yeah.
Big, right? I mean,
that movie is actually disturbing.
It's disturbing. I mean, because think about it, but often it involves, I'm going to say boy makes wish, and the wish in some way ensnares or explicitly involves a woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the thing that you're finding creepy about Big, I don't want to speak for you, but is it Elizabeth Perkins' relationship to Tom Hanks being a 13-year-old boy?
I'm sorry. If I had
she doesn't know. She does not know.
No idea.
She doesn't know. She doesn't know. She doesn't know.
She has no idea until, I guess, if I'm remembering the ending correct, when he transforms back to kid. I'm sorry. If I learn, I think I would have to jump off a bridge. I think I'd be like, well, this was a good run. I tried. Let's start again. Let's try that one more time.
Classic 80s working woman. It never goes right for them. I mean, Fatal Attraction. From Fatal Attraction to Big, which is really just a 1 year leap, but I'm just saying. Yeah, I think the boy makes wish is interesting because it often does involve sex is somewhere in the picture.
Oh,
right?
Baby, it always is, isn't it?
All right. Our next shelf here is Man Controls Woman.
Huh.
Now, man controls woman's body, woman's life, woman's mind. He has some control over the woman that she doesn't either understand or understands but is told is not. This is not true. And so, I mean, I would begin by going all the way back to Gaslight.
If I could only get inside that brain of yours and understand what makes you do these crazy, twisted things.
Gregory, are you trying to tell me I'm insane?
Oh, I was, of course, going to reference that movie, so I'm so glad you brought up, I'm guessing, the 1944 version with Ingrid Bergman.
Oh, yes. Charles Boyer telling Ingrid Bergman that, no, these gas lamps are not trying to poison you.
Paula, I hope you're not starting to imagine things again. You're not, are you, Paula?
Of course I'm not.
I hope you're not.
You're fine. This is just your imagination. But she's convinced that this is what is happening. And he's like, ma'am, you are incorrect. This is not what is happening. I love you. I would never try to kill you.
That very, very French man. It's fascinating, actually, to think about the genre of, women controlled by men who are gaslighting them or keeping them in the dark about their how controlled they are. There's science fiction examples like Ex Machina from 2014, obviously.
Ava. Go back to your room.
If I do, are you ever gonna let me out?
I was going to go up to, hold on, Passengers.
Aurora, I don't want to lose you.
I don't care! I don't care what you want! I don't care why you woke me up! You took my life!
Oh, wow. Yeah. But I wanted to point out just briefly the trend in the 1940s and 1950s of Bluebeard movies, in which, women were gaslit, controlled, and slowly thinking they were losing their minds because of how terrible things are. And Bluebeard is by far one of my favorite fairy tales. I'm a huge, huge fan of Angela Carter's retelling The Bloody Chamber. But watching this movie, I was thinking
Can you just lay out the plot for me, please?
Sure. So Bluebeard is a fairy tale about a very young woman who gets married to an incredibly rich older man who has a blue beard and is known as Bluebeard. And part of his reputation is that he has a trail of dead wives behind him. And so she moves into his grand estate, and he's like, here are the keys to my kingdom. But there is one key and one door you cannot use. And so, of course, her curiosity about the man who is in her bed, who she has bound her life to, leads her to open that door and see all the bodies of his dead wives. And of course, he discovers what he feels like is a boundary cross of her learning who he really is. And he almost kills her, but she's saved by her family, and it takes different shapes. I think the way Angela Carter does it is very moving because it's a mother-daughter story more than anything. And so the way classic Hollywood did it in the women's picture genre was to show in different settings, sometimes modern, sometimes not, how women...
The modern ones are a trip, though, because...
They really are. And I'm talking about movies like, you know, My Name is Julia Ross, Suspicion, Sleep, My Love. You know, these films demonstrate a very real fear that the most dangerous person in your life as a woman is the man in your bed.
Yep. I mean... Yes.
And so it's fascinating to think of these movies in relation to Obsession, because Obsession is really showing a fear that these men have made up of like the crazy girlfriend who's going to destroy your life, and how the cost of loving a woman like that is to have your life completely cratered. But the fear that the women are dealing with in these Bluebeard movies are representing a very real dynamic in life, which is that for as far as we've come with technology and culture and how we discuss things, we are still witnessing such high rates of femicide that it's honestly scary to date as a woman. Men are afraid that women will undermine them or talk over them. Women are afraid that they will die if they go on a date. It's why you text your friends, hey girl, I'm gonna be here with this person at this time. If you don't hear from me, you know, please,
here's where I am.
Please check on some things. And it's fascinating to me that horror as a genre doesn't return to those fears from the women's perspective. Because that's why, like, watching Obsession, all I kept thinking was, man, I need someone to do this movie, but from Nikki's perspective, or even from a female friend's perspective. You're watching your friend lose herself.
But what's interesting about Obsession is I would have loved to have seen, even with everybody being as superficial as they are in this film, I would have loved for there to have been a line that goes more intimately from Nikki to Sarah. But they are immediately received as adversarial. They're adversaries the entire movie in some way. They're not friends.
They're not.
And this man has sort of been positioned between them. And he's a pole around which they sort of operate.
Exactly. It's also interesting. Sarah has information that Bear didn't have.
Right. And that's why she has to die. I mean, in the Blank from Hell genre, she's got to die because she knows things.
Exactly. And one of the things the group knows that Bear doesn't know is that Ian and Nikki had some sort of sexual relationship going on. And it's interesting that Nikki's actual real feelings towards Bear, which is probably more like, you know, oh, you're my friend, I care about you, but I have no romantic feelings, is something that's not communicated by Nikki at any point before, obviously, this transformation possession, but it's something that's put in the mouth of other characters. And there's something fascinating about that because it means we have no real read on how she feels about him.
Well, it's interesting that you put this way because there is that moment where before he breaks the willow that becomes the wish, she's sitting there outside the car and she asks him, do you like me? You can tell me. Now is the moment to tell me because I am moving away. Do you like me or not? And he's like, I'm good. I think we're all right.
I don't know. I'm just like
we're friends.
I'm so sad. I'm Bear.
And I'm just so nice and I deserve everything I want. And the only thing I really want is her.
Right. But But interestingly, he can't use his words. I mean, you just said more than he ever does.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
I think, the cheating to get it brings up a whole other sort of, it's not even a movie genre bucket. It's sort of this is the part where like real life kind of bleeds into this zone, because that Make-A-Wish, that Make-A-Wish toy to me is the cheat that feels generational to me, which is, he can't say what he wants. So he just wishes the cosmos, I'm going to say the cosmos, to make it happen. And I thought the whole time I watched this movie about AI, I thought about the ways in which you can tell Claude, ask Claude, make Claude. And what I'm really interested in is like these shortcuts, right? Letting someone else do the work for you. And that being part of the way life is experienced, right? Like this is an enhancement, this wish situation. But I mean, the movie, I think the cautionary dimension of this film is really about directness in some ways. The whole sticking point of the movie is Baron can't declare anything. He can't articulate what he wants to the person from whom he wants it. The opening scene is him giving this huge, like John Cusack level, say anything style, hold the boombox over your head speech, but he's giving it to a waitress at a restaurant who doesn't know him. And I mean, if I'm giving the movie credit for something, it is for concluding that this guy probably would have been better off just taking the risk and giving the speech that opens the movie, finding some way to give that to Nikki.
Yeah.
And, making Curry Barker, the director of this film, a lot less wealthy at this point, because you'd have had a short film and not this, 100-minute box office behemoth.
Yeah. I think we're in a moment where people are very hungry for connection. I think people are very lonely, and we are seeing it definitely in younger generations acutely. But they don't want to take the risk of showing themselves to someone. You can't expect someone to love you if you don't want to show them all of you. And so it's less that people seem to want a true embodied loving relationship so much as the most pleasing mirror to themselves. It's almost like people are looking for their self-worth and who they really are in the eyes of another, and they can't risk showing the truth of themselves because that's too painful.
Well, I mean, think about that opening sequence, right? Like, we're watching, the way it's framed is that Bear is looking, just past the camera, but at someone on the other side of this diner table. And we don't know who it is. And he is, again, saying, I'm coming apart. I'm falling apart. I'm not right. We can say now that it's Nikki. You are the person who was nicest to me when I came back home after presumably being away at college. And I would choose you over everybody. And when he's done the speech and we get the reverse shot of the person he's talking to, and it's the waitress at the diner, there's a conversation among the three of them, the waitress, Ian, the friend, and Bear, about how disgusting what he just said was, right? The two boys are nauseated. Oh my God, that was so gross, dude. I just was so vulnerable right now. And I couldn't say that to her. Nikki would hate that. And the waitress is like, I don't know, give her some flowers.
Which I was like, yeah, but if you want someone to love you, baby, you got to be vulnerable. Like, what kind of relationship are people expecting?
But this is where I think we are. I think it's funny because I don't know if you're watching, Euphoria just ended. There's the second season of Beef. Which I don't know if you've watched any of, but basically I'll sum it up for you.
Please do.
There's a young couple played by Kaylee Spaney and Charles Melton. And they're kind of cosplaying adult relationship, right? A lot of it is like these expectations of what they've heard a man and a woman who are going to be married are supposed to do. And there's a real, relationships on Euphoria are, inherently cataclysmic. They're completely combustible. And, the friendships aren't even real on that show, as it turns out. And so I don't know. We're at a really interesting moment where I think we're looking for guidance about how to be the person who gives the speech that opens Obsession, right? Like, how does that not cost us something if we do it? And I mean, I'm going to just take what you said and be like, it shouldn't, it's going to cost you something. You might have to hear a no.
Ooh, wow, a no. This is why people are turning to like AI chatbots and stuff to create partners. And it's both men and women. And it's been fascinating to watch. I think sometimes we focus a lot on like how men are dealing, with the loneliness and everything. But I'm like, the women are just as feral and making their own sort of mistakes that I think are closing off the possibility to not only, love another person, but to also be a full human being on your own. You need connection and community and love, to me, is the reason why we're alive. And it makes me and it makes me sad to see so many people so yearning for connection, but so afraid of doing the work to get it or to touch it. And I think we're seeing, these sort of fake versions of relationships. I think in a lot of ways, part of this is, I think as a country, we've never really reckoned with COVID and what that lockdown has done to us.
Oh, yeah, this is a great place to
And I
take
think
things.
that's definitely affecting, someone who would be Bear's age, right? Because you're having these essential years of your life taken from you when you really need to be connecting with people and figuring out what you like and who you are. I think it has made people very disconnected from each other and themselves and very disjointed from the reality that a loving relationship calls for, both with yourself, with your community, and with potential partners. Really what I'm saying is, can y'all go outside, talk to your neighbors, volunteer? Because if you don't open yourself up to these risks, what are your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and onward going to look like?
This is what I was going to ask about Curry Barker. Like, I mean, I'm curious about what his career turns into. And I don't know. I'm just curious to see what maturity looks like for him, both as an artist and as a human. Because there's really a struggle here. There's really a real tension between what it means to evolve into the adult phase of how you relate to people and the, high school phase of how you relate to people. And, he hasn't actually lived that life yet. And there are some people who are really good at imagining it, but I think that I don't know, if he hasn't seen it in a movie, then it doesn't seem like it happened.
Yeah. I think horror has a lot of possibilities now to tap into the very real fears people are dealing with in a way that other genres can't. But it does call for a curiosity about the psychology of the characters and also a curiosity about how the world works.
Artistry, too. Some kind of artistry.
Some kind of artistry.
Even a grubby artistry, not a received, like, secondhand
exactly
kind of pastiche filmmaking.
Yeah, there's something very inert about this movie and a lot of horror movies today. But, maybe this kind of goes to something I have been thinking about. Too many of these writer-directors are not writers. They need to put down the pen and call a friend. Y'all are not Billy Wilder. Please stop.
Angelica Jade Bastien! Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, this was wonderful. This was so wonderful. Thank you for having me on.
Of course.